Figurative and literal language. This is a very timely and important English lesson because it helps students to discern between the difference and the very important difference of figurative versus literal language, because in English, words have multiple meanings based on the context in which they're being used. So I'm going to read through two short poems, Holy Sonnets, Death Be Not Proud being the first, and the second is going to be called Harlem, which is another interesting poem in and of itself, and we're going together learn what the intent of the writer is as we dissect the text, and hopefully with the kind help of my lovely fiance in the Philippines, she will be able to sync this video and share with you the text on the screen as I talk through it. Death be not proud, though some have called thee. Now this is Old King James English. Sometimes you need to translate or master the word thee, or change the word thee to you and make those distinctions, which I will do for you. Death be not proud, though some have called you. The word thee essentially means you. Mighty and dreadful, for you are not so. For those whom you think you dost overthrow, die not, poor death, nor yet canst thou kill me from rest and sleep, which but thy pictures be. Much pleasure then from thee, much more must flow, and soon our best men with thee do go. In other words, we're all going to die, and death is not something any of us can escape. Rest of their bones and souls delivery, you are slave to fate, chance, kings, and desperate men, and dost with poison, war, and sickness dwell, and poppy or charms can make us sleep as well, and better than thy stroke. Why swellest thou then? One short sleep past, we wake eternally, and then death shall be no more, death shall die. Now here we have a British clergyman who was a priest in the church, and he was writing about death because he himself got sick for, some say, up to 14 years or longer, and some speculate that he had typhoid back in the 1600s when he was alive, and he thought he may die. He ended up living about 20 years longer than he expected, and he was trying to reconcile and make peace in his own heart with death. And the text, when I first taught it in Miami, Florida, as a school teacher there, provided a short paragraph and mentioned that portion of the priest's life and how he thought he was going to die, and he had a disease and an illness, and he was writing a poem to death because as a believer in eternity, he did not want to have death be overly proud or arrogant as to his fleshly departure or his life on earth ceasing, because he believed there would be eternal life thereafter. Though the flesh or the body would die, he believed the soul and the spirit would remain and go after and thereafter be with God. So as the clergyman wrote and stated, others, as I mentioned here in this text and provided you additional notes there below, it is actually mentioned in Corinthians chapter 15, verse 26, the last enemy shall be destroyed is death. And this was a connection to a biblical text, which, and again, in social studies, when you take a lot of standardized tests, you'll see overlap between social sciences, religion, culture, anthropology, political science, and sometimes these nuances are not discerned by students, and sometimes they miss these subtle references because things are all connected culturally and geographically and historically and spiritually. And this is how we can discern the deeper meanings of the text. And in fact, a man who was a priest, his position inspired him to write such a spiritual poem, wrestling with eternity and the concept of death, which is not a very beautiful or desirable topic to discuss for many. Yet he dived into it and tackled it wholeheartedly with all boldness and confidence, saying death should not be proud because there is an eternal life to be gained upon physically dying. Now, my next poem, Harlem by Langston Hughes, is another short poem, but very powerful indeed. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat, or crust and sugar over like syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load, or does it explode? So here, I sense and I discern and feel that the poet Langston Hughes is not really writing about Harlem, which is a city or a place, a region within New York City there in Manhattan, but rather he's talking about the state of mind and emotional state that we all wrestle with as children and adults when we have dreams, and maybe we feel those dreams or goals are not being achieved fast enough, and they're festering and rotting within us like meat, and we're not going after them, and we're dying within, and we feel like we're being cheated out of our life, and we are getting angry sometimes, and frustrated or disappointed, even depressed, and agonizing and despairing of life because we feel like the dreams that we truly have burning in our heart are not being fulfilled. And if we don't see any progress in that direction to fulfill them, we could feel like we are dying on the inside. And that's precisely what Langston is getting at. So the first poem is more literal, addressing death, whereas this poem, Harlem, is more figurative language, where you have to discern. We're not really talking about meat. We're talking about the typology or the symbolism and the similarity of when meat rots. As you know, meat has to be preserved with salt or freezer, a frozen temperature on ice. But unlike meat, our dreams cannot necessarily be preserved. They can only be pursued. And as we go after and pursue to do and to live our dreams, therein is fulfillment. Oftentimes success and the joy is found in the journey. At least we're moving forward and making progress, and that process can be fulfilling and feed us on the inside. But when we are not living our dreams, we can feel like we're dying and going backwards and depleting or being dwarfed or diminished and disintegrating and coming undone on the inside, or even becoming increasingly angry and ready to explode, which is the very last word that was mentioned, as well as the second last line, the heavy load, the burden, the emotional baggage and burden of carrying dreams that are not being fulfilled, but yet you see them, you want to do them, you want to pursue them, but maybe you're stuck in a job or a responsibility or a family, and you have other things that are weighing you down and holding you back, and you can't seem to break out or to break through, and it is an agonizing inner emotional turmoil that is being mentioned in this short poem, as it were similarly likened unto rotten meat on the inside of our own souls. So this poem encourages us to recognize this is what happens when we don't attend to our dreams. We get caught up in wasting time on TV or meaningless friendships or relationships or pursuits for playing video games or doing things that really don't add or to us or cause us to grow or mature or increase or advance. And here we see the mighty importance, the great importance of pursuing our dreams and living them, because life is short and we all have an expiration date. Our life is merely a dash between two dates, and we all must live purposefully and powerfully so we can be fulfilled and happy. And these two poems have great significance and similarity, though they be both literal language usage and figurative language usage, but they all talk about fulfillment, whether it's spiritual and eternal, or fulfillment in your daily pursuits in life and living your dreams and not merely putting them on the back burner and letting them agonize and torment you on the inside and make you feel like you're going backwards and rotting within. So something for us all to think about, regardless whether we are a position of a leader or that of an academic or a teacher or a student. We all need to live our dreams and pursue them and live purposefully and be mindful of eternity, because we all have an expiration date. So we should love one another and live purposefully and powerfully, respectfully, with humility, and life will be so much more meaningful, I promise you. So bless you, my friends. Thank you for your time and your attention to listen to this short, transformative, and life-changing lesson.